So since the last time we spoke,
Yes.
we've both been on road trips.
Yes.
This being your second road trip of the summer.
Yes, I have pretty much gotten the complete road trip bug. I will go anywhere and anywhere for anything at this point. I had such a good time in my 3.5 week sojourn, and yeah. So this is a little bit of follow up from episode 1, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, for any new listeners, all the way back in episode 1, we talked about the upcoming total solar eclipse that was going to be visible in the United States. And since last time we spoke, we've both visited the Path of Totality. So way back in episode 1 when we talked about it,
Yes.
I had told you that I had seen an eclipse before, the 1999 total eclipse that was across Europe, and I recall I was very effusive in my praise about what a great experience that was.
You were quite effusive, yes.
And since that time, that was like 18 years ago, I've been telling anyone who will listen to get to the path and see an eclipse before.
Yes.
Do everything they can to see a total eclipse because it's a really amazing experience.
Yes, you've been proselytizing the total eclipse. You've been
Yes.
what they call in Silicon Valley an evangelist.
Exactly. So I was trying to sell you on it as well, and I successfully got you to make a big long road trip to see it.
Yes, you did.
Hopefully, I didn't oversell it.
Well, we will
So
see.
I guess the question I need to ask you right off the bat is, was it worth it?
So skipping to the end of the review here. I'd say clearly yes, it was worth it. It was definitely worth it.
Good.
Yes.
I would have felt terrible if I'd convinced you to drive hundreds and hundreds of miles out of your way for a fool's errand.
No, that is the one bit of disappointment I had actually, is that it wasn't such a disappointment that I couldn't make you feel terrible about it. So I'm gonna have to
You're so sweet.
look for other opportunities to do that. No, definitely, totally worth it. Yes.
So tell me about it. Tell me what you thought.
Okay, so you want the whole trip run up, or we going right to totality here? Because for me it was like a combination of the road trip itself, and then there was like kind of the build up to the event, and then the event of totality, and then the kind of side journey afterwards, which was pretty much traffic from
yes.
from Tennessee home.
Yeah, so we're both coming from Massachusetts, and the path of totality for us is several hundred miles to the south of us, or to the west, depending on which direction you went.
Yeah.
And you ended up going where?
To Tennessee. So we had a car full of 8 people, my wife, 3 kids, and a few of their friends, and we had pretty much 3 days to do the entire round trip.
Wow.
So we couldn't, we didn't have the entire path to choose from, right? In terms of picking optimal spot.
Right. There's only so far you can get within the 3-day span.
Right. So pretty much the idea was drive down, get really close on day 1. Day 2, make the final determination of where we're going on the day of the event, and then day 3, drive home. So we ended up staying in far northeastern Tennessee, basically right on the Appalachians at the intersection of the major east-west highway that goes from Tennessee to South Carolina.
Yeah.
And so what I did was watch the weather forecast, and I have to give big props out to NOAA and their cloud cover percent, because they totally set me up. And I basically watched South Carolina and all of Tennessee for the most clearly predicted skies. The skies that were predicted to be the most clear, I should say. And then we ended up in eastern Tennessee, in Sweetwater, Tennessee.
Sweetwater, Tennessee,
where they said they were expecting 50 to 100,000 people. It did not quite work out to be that much, but sort of cutting to the chase, right? So we got to Sweetwater. The day of, we had absolutely no traffic, and we were in the path. Clouds were pretty much a non-issue. There was like one cloud that covered the sun a couple hours before totality, but that was it. There was some other on the horizon, but in terms of sky clarity, we really lucked out.
So you had optimal conditions.
Optimal conditions, yes.
Perfect.
So
happy to hear that.
Yes. You on the other hand did not. You had a little bit of cloudage.
I had a little bit of clouds. We can get to that. Yes.
Okay. So we're sort of the first kind of fun thing is just that it's all festive. Everybody's sort of like there just for that thing, right? So people playing music and taking pictures with space people in spacesuits and aluminum foil on their heads and, all that kind of goodness. So, okay, so we got the eclipse glasses, right? And
Yeah.
so about an hour and a half before we have, so what they call, I love this term, first contact.
First contact,
Right.
C1.
So if you put your eclipse glasses on, you can't see anything at all except for the sun. And so it just looks like a small orange circle in the sky. And first contact, you could see the moon start to take a little bit of a curved bite out of the sun.
Right.
And I don't know if you found this, Tom, but with the eclipse glasses, I found it much more immersive to take them off my head and hold them out in front of me, so that
Okay.
so that the glasses themselves are blocking the ultraviolet rays that could burn your retina,
Yeah.
right? Because the whole reason you wear the glasses is that you don't have pain receptors in your eyes, and so you don't want to lose your vision staring at the sun. And yet, so you can block that out. You can see what's happening with the moon covering the sun, and yet you can also look at the context of the sky around you, right? Which as you approach 50, 60% totality, so the sky starts to get darker. So I found that as interesting as the actual looking at the sun itself.
I just had them plastered on my head the whole time.
Yeah.
I didn't do any improvisation like you did.
Right. Yeah. So the sort of the darkening, the gradual darkening sky was sort of the first really interesting thing, and then the light. So like the closest analogy I had for the light leading up to totality was like occasionally at a clear sunset, you sort of have that like that just after sunset, but before it gets dark kind of light.
Yeah.
Where it's what would you call that? Indirect, I guess, or diffused or something. But it was like that effect times 1,000. It was just sort of this eerie, surreal glow, and the shadows were really interesting. So like the shadows seemed to be getting much darker and much sharper.
Right.
Like looking at someone's shaggy hair, you could see every little sharpness on their hair, right? So that was kind of cool. And then I found it interesting the last sort of like 20 minutes leading up to totality, how it seemed like the darkness was going on an exponential curve. The final 15 minutes, the pace of darkness accelerated, and the final few minutes even more. So it was like this nice little ramp up, like the definite temperature drop perception.
Oh yeah.
And wind sort of picking up. Yeah, then it was just really neat seeing I wish I had actually taken my glasses off a minute earlier. Not a minute, maybe like 10 seconds earlier. But those final few moments of sunlight right before you can't see anything through the glasses. I had my glasses on the whole time though, so I didn't see what do you call those little dancing?
Oh, the Bailey's beads?
Bailey's beads, right. But then, so then after the sun went out, took the glasses off, and the corona. So I watched a lot of video and afterwards to see how that could capture it, and looked at pictures. I have not seen a picture yet that captured how sharp the corona looked to the naked eye.
Yes.
It was really like a painting, like a flower in full bloom with like very like sharply defined curves and points on it.
I think that's a universal reaction for most people who see a total solar eclipse at any kind of photograph of it just does not come close to capturing what it is with your naked eye.
Yeah, I find that really interesting because I mean we're at we're at the leading edge of photographic technology, right? Like we ought to be able to capture this, but we can't for some reason. It's going to be something to do with the nature of the light, but yeah. So the corona comes out, and like everybody is just hooting and hollering, and it was just like a big like woohoo kind of thing. And
were you in a big crowd?
It was a sizable crowd. It wasn't like packed to the gills, but there were definitely a large number of people around, and so it's just very exciting. And seeing, so saw Venus, right? And a few other stars. A couple of bats flew overhead. They're like, oh, time to go home.
Yep.
And the 360 sunrise, or sunset, I should say, around the whole horizon.
Right.
Seeing that little bit of
dawn light in every direction.
Yep. Yeah, it's just really fun to see like different people's reactions to it. I mean, it was weird. I was sort of walking back and forth between the people I was watching it with and some of the strangers I'd met, and then my son and his friends. And even though we knew this was a very time limited experience, it felt like, oh, it was going to be like this for a few hours. So we ended up getting 2 minutes and 37 seconds, which relatively speaking was quite a lot, especially with the clear skies that we had.
Mm-hmm.
So, very fortunate there, but it was surprising that when it ended, I was like, oh, that's right. Like I'd sort of forgotten in the couple of minutes that it was this momentary experience. And the return of the very first ray of light was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, and it's like instant daylight almost immediately.
Yeah, and just like seeing that emerge from what it looked just the corona around the black circle, and then having that kind of like spotlight come out was pretty fantastic. And then we're back.
So almost everyone I've ever talked to about this that has seen an eclipse almost universally says it surprised them how much more exciting it was than they expected. Was that the case for you as well?
I don't think so because I had talked to you so much about it. No,
oh, okay.
No, let me be clear. Like it was still very exciting.
Yeah.
Right. But one, I had talked to you a lot about this experience. I had read a lot about it, and so
you had primed the pump.
Yes, I had a high expectation to have my expectations be met. I had a pretty good idea. So it wasn't shocking to see, for example, the sunset, the 360 sunset, or the diamond ring, or the Bailey's beads, or the corona, or the bats, or the stars. I mean, all those things are still awesome, but it wasn't shocking. Plus, too, I think there was maybe part of me. All right, this might get a little into hashtag overthinking it, so you can cut this off. It's going to dampen the mood. But I sort of feel like personally, there isn't any outer universe experience that is going to completely make my mind and consciousness split open and melt. Like if I may have mentioned this in one of our prototype episodes, but like if aliens came down on their spaceship and invited me to their planet and flew me around the universe, it would definitely be cool, and I would want to talk about it on the podcast. but it wouldn't like change how I look at myself in the universe. And I think that's because I was very fortunate, just from my own personal experience, to have a very impactful experience with like meditation and those sorts of things at a very young age. And so I already feel like my reorientation with how I feel about myself in relation to the universe and feeling small in terms of, the grand scheme of things. It's like I already sort of have that. So it's like, so I don't have, things personally, psychically, I don't feel like I have like a big barrier to that breaking down. So it was very fun and cool, but it was not like a life, like people talk about as a life-changing experience. I feel like my life has already changed, and so I didn't like look at everything in my entire life in a different way after the experience.
Yeah. Well, you know how non-fluffy I am.
Yeah. Oh, I kept referring to you, by the way. People are like, if I could just interrupt you, like people kept asking me, oh, so why are you going on this trip? What's so great about Totality? And I was like, oh, well, I have this friend, he's kind of a button-down sciencey guy.
Yeah.
Totally non-fluffy, but he talked about this experience that was very moving. And so
yes,
it was therefore all the more impactful to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, you can understand what's going on here with the alignment of the sun, moon, and the earth, and being in the shadow of the moon. But I think when you're actually physically experiencing standing in the shadow of the moon, I think there's something about that experience that's more than the sum of its parts. I like a lot of people, I can't describe adequately what that feeling is like.
Yeah,
but it was exhilarating to me the second time as much as it was the first time.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It was still an amazing experience, and I am really excited for the next accessible one. Not to the point where I'm going to like take a chartered flight to like the middle of nowhere and right just for the experience. But there's enough total eclipses within reasonable striking distance. I mean, we have 2024, 2045 if you want to hang around that long time.
Yeah,
in North America.
So you want to see another one?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So what did your family think of this? Were they skeptical of you dragging them half the country away for something your bizarre podcast pal was telling you to do?
Well, so they had actually heard your story and were moved by it. Or impacted by it. So they were all into it. Plus they're all into road trip anyway.
Yeah.
So if I was like, hey, let's go and check out a waterfall. They might not be into the waterfall, but they're like, yeah, sure, let's hit the road. So, yeah, no, they thought it was cool. I mean, they weren't like, again, they weren't like crying like, oh my gosh, this was like the most amazing experience of my life. But they really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
So, like, we did watch a few videos that said, oh, here's a simulation of an eclipse, right? This is like
right.
what you could potentially expect. I think, like, as we were breaking it down on the long journey home, there was kind of a consensus that there was an expectation that it was going to be darker than it was.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a similar.
I did. This is my second total solar eclipse. I mean, the last one I saw was 18 years ago. But my recollection of that one was that the sky got darker. This time, I only saw Venus. I didn't see the other planets like Mars and Mercury that were supposed to be visible. I didn't. Maybe I just wasn't looking in the right place, but I didn't see them.
Right.
But that may just be the particular atmospheric conditions at the time or where I was located. Or the one I saw in 1999 was part of the same 18-year cycle. It's called a Saros. It's the eclipse cycles go in 18 years where they have similar geometries. And so the one I seen previously was the previous one in that cycle and had the similar kind of width and length of the Path of Totality. So like all the geometry was the same, but it did seem different to me, or maybe it was my memory that was faulty. But the one thing I do recall that was different with this one, to me, it seemed like the corona was much more vibrant and just alive than the previous eclipse that I saw. So maybe that's enough to account for the difference in the lightness of the sky. I don't know.
Right. So what did you call it? A Saros?
A Saros is eclipse is due to the characteristics of the orbits of the Earth and the Moon, because they're not perfect circles.
Right.
They only line up in certain eclipse-friendly alignments every 18 years, even though there's several different cycles. So an eclipse happens somewhere in the world every couple of years, but of those eclipses, they operate in 18-year cycles.
Interesting.
So it has a similar geometry, but the one in 2024, it's part of a different 18-year cycle.
Okay.
And that one that's going to cross the United States is going to have a path of totality that's almost twice as wide as the one we just experienced. So it's going to have a much larger shadow on the surface of the Earth, so which may mean that's going to have a darker sky, I guess, because you're going to be in deeper shadow.
Yeah, and so probably for similar reasons, I was reading, it was going to have a longer totality duration too. Like they were saying for 2024, between 4 and 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
I actually hopped on the Reddit machine and was asking the Solar Eclipse subreddit about what would account for variance in darkness levels for total eclipses. And they were saying a lot of the things you just said about could depend on the proximity of the moon, which is, I guess, what you're talking about with the geometries.
Right.
Potential atmospheric haze, like not necessarily clouds, but there could be something else going. I mean, the atmosphere is more than just sky and cloud, right? So there could be something in the upper atmosphere that is distorting light in a particular way, or just the terrain.
Yeah, or your altitude.
Right.
There's a lot of different things that can probably contribute to it.
Yeah.
I think the most unknown X factor in all these occurrences is no one really knows what the corona is going to look like until you actually see it.
Right.
That's a changing characteristic of the sun, seeing its upper atmosphere, which you normally can't see at all until the sun's light is obscured.
Right. Yeah, I think the corona, well, at least in my memory, in my mind's eye of when I saw it, it was like one sun radius outward. Like it was huge.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I was looking at, those funny cartoons of the sun where like, you draw like the the big triangles on the side. Like that's kind of what it looked like. My mind's eye before that, the corona is just this narrow sort of blur around.
Yeah, that was my recollection of the 99 eclipse, is that the corona was a lot more limited and smaller in size. But this one was it was wisping out there all the way.
Yeah.
All these strands in every direction.
I saw some videos that caught the some solar flares.
Oh yeah, cool.
And one video that caught the International Space Station doing a little photobomb across.
Oh, you saw that's Destin's video.
Okay.
Smarter Every Day.
Oh, is that his?
I assume that's the video you saw. But he had been talking about that on his podcast, No Dumb Questions, previously. That he had figured out that there was one specific place in Wyoming where you could time it right and see a transit of the International Space Station across the eclipsed sun if you're in the right place at the right time. And they captured it on camera. It was just an amazing feat of timing because it just zipped right by as like a fraction of a second.
That's pretty awesome. So we had an awesome time. Did you have a similar positive experience?
Oh, I did.
Well, I was a little worried that the cloudiness was gonna bum you out, but like it did not.
Well, I'd be happy with anything, but I'd given myself 5 days to travel for the eclipse.
Okay.
Because I wanted to maximize my possibilities as far as where I could get to in the U.S. from leaving from Massachusetts, based on the weather report. Because I wanted to be somewhere that was going to have a good chance of clear skies.
Right.
So we left on the Friday night before the eclipse on Monday, and we decided we were going to make the decision of where we're going to go Saturday afternoon once we got the 48-hour weather report. So by that time, we were almost in Ohio. We were either going to go west to Nebraska or south to Tennessee, Kentucky. After we saw the weather report, we decided to go south because Nebraska wasn't looking very promising for clear skies. So we ended up going to western Kentucky.
Now, did you have when you had that split point, did you have a maximum point west that you, like, were you considering Oregon and Idaho, or was that too far?
No. It was going to be somewhere within a day's drive of a day and a half's drive of Ohio. So basically out to Nebraska.
Yeah, okay.
Which is like the furthest west we could potentially go. And the furthest south we could potentially go is South Carolina. So we had half the country within driving range within 48 hours. What was the goal? So we ended up going to western Kentucky, which is actually near the point of maximum eclipse, actually, for duration, which was around Hopkinsville, Kentucky. But we ended up going to a place called Land Between the Lakes, which is a national recreation area, which is kind of like a national park junior type of place.
Okay.
Just wilderness area, with various hiking trails and camping spots and stuff like that.
Nice. So I had the teeming masses social experience, and you had the immersive nature experience.
Yes. But we had a good crowd there too. I mean, we'd stayed overnight and over the border in Tennessee, and then very early in the morning we crossed over into Kentucky and went into the Land Between the Lakes area. And got to a ranger station before dawn, and got one of the first parking spots there. And it was just really nice little spot, deep in the woods in Kentucky. There was a big herd of deer there when we first got there in the morning, just munching away on the grass.
Nice. And
as the morning went on, just more and more people started coming in, and soon we had a little party going on there.
Did you connect with other Umbraphiles that were journeying there?
Yeah, here and there. You know how much of a social butterfly I am.
Well, so I'm wondering if this is one of those rare moments where like your extrovertness comes out and you're just so jazzed up you gotta break it down.
No, I keep to myself. There was one Kentucky gentleman there though he just loved talking to anyone and everyone.
Right.
He'd just go on and on and on. He was a really funny guy. He was very nice.
That's good.
His husband was there with a whole bunch of tripods and telescopes and photographic equipment, and he just didn't care. He was just like, I'd much rather watch just from my porch, but I'm here, I'll make the most of this. He had just all these stories. He was just telling anyone who would listen all around him, and it was like listening to a live episode of S-Town.
That's awesome. I just as an aside, I could not have found the people of Sweetwater, Tennessee, to be any more accommodating. I think a lot of these places are small, rural, not the most economically thriving places in the country. So to have this opportunity of a massive tourist influx is very positive. I actually lost my wallet briefly, and someone turned it in, and the police were like, "Oh yeah, here you go." And everyone was very, very nice.
Yeah. I mean, at the park here, everyone was there for the same reason. So everyone was just really excited to be there, and we're looking forward to it. It was perfectly clear skies that morning. As the day went on, though, more and more clouds were coming in, though. So it was getting kind of worrying. But once we had first contact, it was reasonably clear. We saw most of the run up to Totality.
Nice.
But as we got closer and closer to Totality, just more and more clouds started showing up as I started getting worried, I was like, I spent all this time trying to figure out the best optimal weather position, and right where we were getting clouds.
I did email you that NOAA site. Did you not use that reference?
Yeah, I looked at it. Yeah, it looked pretty good. It's just I've subsequently seen pictures from other parts of Land Between the Lakes, and they had clear skies. I think it was just luck of the draw.
Yeah,
you can't. Nothing's guaranteed.
So actually, that's an aspect of eclipse chasing that I actually kind of liked, is that you can get real deep in the weeds of prediction and planning and all that. But at the end of the day, it's you sort of have to let go of it and be like, you'll be happy with what you receive.
Mother Nature's in charge.
Exactly.
You have no control over it.
Yeah.
So another really cool thing we had out in the middle of the forest there is that when it started getting dark, all the insects started buzzing and chirping. My wife actually got an audio recording of this part of the eclipse. It's getting dark.
Crickets are very confused.
So we got closer and closer to totality, and just like about maybe 30 seconds before totality, the sun went behind a cloud.
Oh, God.
So when totality came, when the darkness fell on us, the sun was behind a cloud and we couldn't see it.
There's Venus. There's Venus.
And we're gone.
It looks like sunset all around. Yeah.
So it was like we were all excited that the sun went out and it was dark, but we couldn't see it, and there was a little bit of pang of disappointment there.
Right.
Damn you, cloud.
But that only lasted about 30, 40 seconds, because then, like a curtain being drawn across, the cloud parted and the fully eclipsed sun just showed up right there above us, and it may have been even more exciting that way.
Oh, look. There's a slit. There it is.
Oh.
Yeah, woo!
Just to have like the curtain suddenly rise, and the big hole in the sky is there with just the most beautiful corona you can possibly imagine.
That's awesome.
Everyone was just so excited. I was totally dumbstruck. I couldn't say a word. I just had tears in my eyes. I was just so excited again.
Wow, that's awesome. Because of the corona reveal itself.
Yeah, and it was I found it a much more beautiful corona than the last time I saw it.
Yeah.
That was the thing that really struck me about this eclipse, was how beautiful the wispy corona was.
Wow.
It was more beautiful than I expected it to be.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so we got about 2 minutes 30 seconds of totality, and then like that, it's daytime again.
Yes, it's pretty wild. I was surprised how happy the feeling was with that first return of light. Like, I thought it would be like, oh, totality is awesome, and here comes the sun again, wah. But the emotion of the crowd, at least the one I was with, was like this triumphant return of
That's
daylight.
right. Yeah, it was. And it really, you got to see how much of difference it is between totality and just 99% total. I mean, that was a thing I saw a lot, or heard from a lot from people prior to the eclipse, is that it's going to be 90% where I am. Isn't that close enough? It's going to be 95%. No, that's not close enough. 99% is not close enough. You have to be in the path of totality to fully experience it.
Yes.
You saw for yourself how bright that little sliver of the sun was.
Oh, yeah. I read a bunch of places. 99% totality on a luminosity scale is 10,000 times brighter than totality.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's either partial or total. Randall Munro had a great XKCD on this, right? On his final eclipse review, and with his chart about expectation versus how cool something is, and there is a multiple orders of magnitude of difference.
Yep.
Have you ever seen an annular eclipse?
An annular? No, I have not seen an annular eclipse. An annular eclipse is due to the alignments of the moon and the sun, that the moon does not quite cover the sun, and so there can be a complete ring of fire, basically of sunlight that's surrounding the moon.
Right. So like a partial would be that the moon passes over a part of it, and then an annular would be the moon passes through the center, but the moon itself has a smaller diameter than the sun. So you see that.
Not to be confused with annual.
Right.
This doesn't happen every year. It's annular.
Yeah. And apparently there's like I haven't figured this out yet, a hybrid eclipse
Yeah,
between.
that's a combination between an annular eclipse and a total eclipse, because during the course of the shadow crossing the Earth, it transitions between an annular eclipse and a full total eclipse.
Oh, interesting. I wonder what it would be like to see that moment when it transitions. That'd be pretty neat to see a total, because when we saw it,
Right.
the reveal is from a side, and so you get one beam from the side.
Yeah.
What it would be like to see a total and then have it essentially visually the moon shrinking.
Yeah.
Have those first lights come from all around.
I'd imagine you have to be in a very specific spot
Yeah.
to see that. Yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
if anyone's done that, but I've never seen one of those. No, this is only my second total eclipse.
Right.
So, but if I can help it, I plan to see more.
Yeah, dude, you're gonna have to stay healthy and eat your peas, huh? It's a good thing I got your green thumb going now. You gotta keep that body going. See those eclipses. Yeah, that was the one. So I liked the social, festive, teeming masses aspect of the experience.
Yeah.
And I think it actually kind of suited the group I was with because we were such a large age varied group. So that was cool thematically for the experience. But I would, in an ideal world, I think I would like to find a more natural environment next time. Although I've heard amazing stories from people breaking down this eclipse who saw it from like a Walmart parking lot. So I think it's like a secondary variable, really, from being able
the
to
first
see it.
eclipse I saw, I was basically just on the side of the road.
Yeah.
This was a lot nicer being in a wilderness area. Definitely.
We did see a little bit, even though we weren't in a park, as we were walking actually back to the car, and the sun was still partially eclipsed as it was reemerging.
Mm-hmm.
The light coming through some trees, and then the shadows on the ground.
Yes.
Each one of the spots between the leaves creating a makeshift pinhole camera, and so just a flood of slivers of the of the half-formed sun.
Little crescents on the ground. Yeah, we had that too. I took a few pictures of that. That's always fun.
Well, that's awesome. It's funny that like you had that like you almost didn't have it and then it was returned to you. It was like, okay, time for an ice cream. Sorry. Oh no, wait, here it is.
Here it is, and you got 2 more scoops.
Yeah, right.
Yes, it was. In the end, it was a terrific experience. Even though we were scared by the clouds for a moment.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But and then afterwards, we had the hell traffic trying to get out of Kentucky.
Oh gosh, yeah. So did you stay in Tennessee that night, or did you?
No, we started heading back home that afternoon, and it took us until midday the next day to get out of Kentucky.
Until midday the next day.
Yes, we stayed overnight in Kentucky because we just couldn't get out of the state. There was just traffic everywhere.
Wow. Yeah. So we had if there was no traffic, it would have been an hour and 10 minutes back to our hotel in Northeast Tennessee, where we stayed that night.
Yeah,
and it took us like 4 or 5 hours to get back there. And then the next day, what would normally take us maybe 14 to go home, took us 18 hours on the way back.
That's a long drive.
So we had some very positive experiences with getting around traffic and using Google Maps to that effect. And then we had some cases where it didn't matter what Google Maps was telling you. There was just too many cars on the road. And we had a couple of spots, especially when we were taking side roads, where we just stopped the car and the kids got out and played Frisbee for like 20 minutes. like we weren't moving. So
yeah, the roads in Kentucky were just basically overwhelmed. There just wasn't enough capacity on the roads to handle that much traffic.
Yeah. And yet the initial reports I've seen, at least from the area we were in eastern Tennessee, is that while there were crowds and the traffic was terrible, it was still far less than what they were expecting. Like like that morning, I heard 50, 60,000 for Sweetwater, and there was less than 10.
You can always count on the apathy of the average American.
I guess so, huh? But we did. We had a couple of moments on the way down where Google took us off the main highway and got us back on 2 exits later and saved us like an hour and a half just around a parking lot. But there were other times where we were just on back roads, and the back roads were just as busy. So
yeah, I didn't have very good luck with Google in Kentucky. Yeah, I just don't think Google and Kentucky get along very well. I think what Google needs is a few engineers from Kentucky on their software team because I don't think their algorithm works in Kentucky.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like every time it wanted to route us somewhere, it was back into traffic apocalypse. Every time we tried to commandeer the wheel from this AI, it would basically just send us back into this black hole of traffic.
Right. So I did have kind of a philosophical exploration of ideas with some of my fellow drivers about whether we should be following Google Maps or not at particular junctures.
Yeah.
And to be totally fair, so we because I don't want to misrepresent our spirited debate. So you're only hearing one side of this.
Yep.
So my understanding of Google Maps is that it's informed by current data, so like the GPS and cell phone tower signals of people that are currently on the road, right? And then some AI to project based on those conditions what's going to happen, right? And so it doesn't have all the data, right? It only has the data that it has.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a couple of moments like when we were leaving the venue where you could see everybody flooding out of the parking lots, about to make certain routes very trafficy, and Google wanting to send you that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so my initial feeling was, we should just go this other back road, even though right now it says, it's 10 minutes longer. We should do that because we have future data knowledge that this algorithm does not yet have. So there was not universal agreement with my analysis. And as it turns out, this is the other thing about these things, that it's impossible, no matter which decision you make, to know whether you were right or not. Because, so we ultimately decided to go the way Google was sending us. And the traffic was really bad, but we looked at the roads of the alternative, and those were really bad as well, at least from what you could see on the map, the red lines and all that. So there's no real, mentally it's an unsatisfying decision point, right? Because you're stuck in multiple hours of traffic. You don't know, had you gone the other way, whether you had made the right decision. So,
yeah, this is the first road trip that we've done that we used Google a lot. That was kind of based on your effusive praise about it. And I've come to the conclusion that it's probably pretty good for short haul trips, but like really multi-state trips, I think you're better off doing human navigation for that, or setting shorter waypoints for it to figure out connections.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of came around to still being very confident in it, but for two respects. One is that it's not magic. It's not like it's always going to find you a clear path.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're stuck in traffic and there's no way out, it's not going to say, convert your car into a hovercraft and, there's a limit to its capacity. The other thing too is evaluating the system based on one faulty or occurrences that happened to be emotionally charged. I mean, sitting in multiple hours of traffic is not an emotionally pleasurable experience for most people. And so even in the cases where the algorithm makes a mistake, I think there could be the tendency to just throw the system out. This situation comes up a lot with sports analysts. So there's a classic thing in football where coaches are often reticent to go for it on fourth down, even when all the number and the data says that they should. So in New England, Belichick, the coach of the Patriots, is famous for being aggressive and following the numbers. And sometimes it doesn't work out, right? It's like even when the numbers say you should do something, sometimes, and so then all the analysts jump on, you shouldn't have done this. And he has enough of a track record of success that he can sort of get away with it, right? But a lot of coaches are gun shy to follow the numbers because they're afraid of being criticized for a single point of failure. That's sort of how I eventually thought about it, but who knows? Maybe Google just does need to install some engineering teams in Kentucky.
Yeah. But we eventually got home, and I've just kind of still been on my Eclipse high since then. Been watching a lot of videos on YouTube of people hooting and hollering at the Eclipse. It's always fun to see people react to it. I think it's just a wonderful experience. So
yeah.
So your conclusion is what?
Solid A, excellent experience. I would do it again. I'm psyched for 2024, already thinking about how to hit that. I'm not quite, I'm going to start my own Umbraphile website and journey to the ends of the earth to see totality, right? Yep. But I'm like a notch below. I'm like definitely I can't think of anything else that would be better appointment viewing than a solar eclipse. I think I would agree with Randall in his final observation that it was, without exaggeration, the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Awesome. I'm so happy that you got to see it.
Yeah, fantastic. Plus, I got all my kids smitten with the eclipse bug.
Exactly.
So,
all right, 2024. Maybe we should we'll do that road trip together. Maybe.
absolutely. So we'll be right at about episode 200 then, Tom. So,
We only have to go up to Vermont for that one. Although I'm eyeing these eclipses that are going to be down in South America coming up in the next couple of years.
Yeah, you told me. Was it July of 2019? Is that? And
There's one. Yeah, there's one crossing South America in 2019 and in 2020. I've never been to South America, so that'd be a good reason to go down there.
right, and a couple in Australia next decade.
Yes, there's a bunch in Australia coming up too, and I'm also thinking that I saw previous eclipse in this 18-year cycle that we just experienced, like the one 18 years ago. So I wanted to make sure I get to the one that's 18 years from now. That's going to be in 2035, and that's going to cross through Japan.
Ooh,
So if Brother X is still there, I'll pay him a visit.
2035, you say?
Yes.
All right, we should be around for that one. As you're scanning the Wikipedia list of future eclipses,
yeah,
where do you stop? Where you're like, no way, doesn't matter how many peas I'm going to eat. Like, that's definitely not happening.
You always got to bring it back around to death, don't you?
We're talking about these amazing, moving experiences of life. How can it not go into death? I did see some cool pictures of like 100-year-old people who had never seen an eclipse before. Hold out hope, Tom. I think what is it? I think it is 2045, if I'm not mistaken, that there's going to be one through New England.
Not through New England. I think.
No?
Where is it? Let me see. 2045. Yes. This is the one that 2045 is the eclipse that goes through Disney World.
Oh, nice.
It crosses from California all the way down to Florida.
Okay, I'm thinking of 2070 something, where there's one that it's like all of Massachusetts and Connecticut and Rhode Island.
Yeah, I won't be around for that.
2079?
No.
Dude, you could.
Unless we reach the singularity or whatever it is, we're old enough to be immortal.
Truly a cyborg at that point, right?
Yeah. It's May 1st, 2079. Yeah, I'm looking at the map right now.
Yeah. I would be over 100. Yeah, probably not making that. My kids can make that.
That's right.
Yeah,
They could.
yeah.
So put it on their calendar.
Sweet.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you were able to experience the recent solar eclipse, we'd love to hear from you. You can find us on both Twitter and Facebook, or you can join the discussion on the 2-Bit Geeks subreddit. Tell us what you think. And as always, we thank you for your support.